never admit their mistakes. But what's going to happen is that they're probably not going to raise, because if you actually look at what's happened in the last 6 weeks, not only has the labor market not strengthened, it's actually weakened considerably. And the economic data that's come out over the last 6 weeks, on balance, has been worse than expected. So, if the Fed was hoping to get, better news, they didn't get better news. And, I think the news is actually worse than the government reports, because I don't think we're telling the whole story. The only numbers that are really coming up are the inflation numbers. And for some reason, they're saying this is a good thing. The fact that inflation is picking up, apparently is progress, according to the Fed. The CPI we just got showed an annualized increase in consumer prices, if you multiply it out, at 6% a year. And this is supposed to be good news. It's supposed to represent progress towards price stability. No, it's not. We're going in the opposite direction. If you want prices to be stable, you don't want them to go up at all. The fact that they're going up faster doesn't mean you're getting closer to your goal of price stability. You're getting further away from your goal.
What does it signify that oil's gone up some?
Well, oil's going up because the dollar's reversed. The dollar's going down, and the dollar did, move up a little bit on the Fed announcement. But interestingly, oil didn't move down very much, and oil right now is just below $49 a barrel. And we're up over 70% from the lows. I mean, we were down below 30. We got down to like 27, 28. But yes, we're still below the $100 a barrel we were at, a year and a half or 2 years ago, wherever we were up there.
Sure.
But you know what? We can get up there very quickly. If the Fed doesn't hike rates in June, I think they're setting the dollar up for a big drop and another huge run up in gold and oil. And in fact, even if the Fed does raise rates, I don't think that's bearish for gold, because what happened to gold the last time the Fed raised rates? It went way up, because these rate hikes are too little too late.
Sure, I understand. Let me ask you this question. You're dead on. I think you're probably the most accurate guy out there of everybody we interview. So let me ask you this then. Why is the media right that we're finally in big financial problems? How bad is it globally? You've got all this default stuff in places like Puerto Rico. Now they have a deal with Congress. You got all this bail-ins more in Europe. You've got all these pension funds going belly up. You've got the Saudis can't pay their bills. I mean, what is going on?
Well, I don't think the media is coming close to acknowledging how bad the economy actually is. I mean, I think if you just look at how popular Bernie Sanders is and Donald Trump, that's a good indication of how bad the economy is, because both the left and the right know how bad it is. And so they're both grasping for straws, looking for something different. But, you mentioned Puerto Rico. And the interesting thing about Puerto Rico is broke. I mean, that's pretty obvious. Even the governor admits that mathematically, they can't pay their debts. But 3 years ago, they were just as broke. It's just that nobody cared, because creditors weren't worried. They just kept lending them money, even though they were broke, and interest rates were down.
So it's a cold sore. It's a canary in the coal mine. The fact that that's happening shows other big creditors are now overextended.
Well, it just shows you that, it's all a question of, it's never a problem until it is, right? So Puerto Rico was broke, but now it's a problem because the creditors figured out that they're broke. Well, America is more broke than Puerto Rico.
Sure.
That's a fact. It's just that our creditors haven't figured it out yet. But when they do, then Donald Trump is going to end up being right, because all we can do is default. And if we don't default, if we print money, which now Trump is saying, we don't have to default because we could print. Well, printing is worse than default, because printing doesn't just wipe out the bondholders. It wipes out anybody who owns U.S. dollars.
Yeah, I agree with you. Trump is wrong on that front. I like him because he's sincere. You were Ron Paul's chief economic advisor, and you advised others in Congress and testified, obviously, Peter Schiff. What would you advise Trump to do? I mean, I know the advice on the show actually gets to him. I know he tunes into what we have to say and our guests have to say pretty much on a daily basis. What would you say to Trump?
Well, it's hard to say what's the best thing for Trump, the candidate, to say. I mean, so far, he's done a pretty good job as Trump, the candidate. But if he actually wins, the advice that I would give Trump, the president, is actually when he talked about some kind of restructure, that is exactly what we need, because we can't pay back our debt, but we need higher interest rates. Now, Donald Trump said, hey, I'm a low interest rate guy. Low interest rates are part of the problem. Now, Donald Trump knows that if interest rates go up, we can't afford to pay our debt. So his solution is to keep interest rates low. But that doesn't work. That's part of the problem. That's why the economy can't have real economic growth.
Sure, we'll end up like Japan if this continues.
Yeah, we need higher interest rates, but then we have to admit that we have too much debt to afford higher interest rates, and we have to restructure. That is the painful reality that we have to do.
Sure, because if we don't restructure, we'll just finally either collapse or just go into stagnation. I mean, which one is it?
Well, it'll be massive inflation, because if we keep interest rates low forever, no matter how high inflation gets, then the dollar collapses and they keep printing and printing and printing. And then that type of scenario, runaway inflation, hyperinflation, that is much worse than a legitimate restructuring.
Yeah, well, I'm no rocket scientist like you when it comes to mathematics and economy, but it seems to me if they're creating tens of trillions more in derivatives and fake dollars and credit default swaps and all this crap, that it's going to cause inflation. So where are they hiding all the inflation? Because to me, it seems like it should be much worse by now.
You know, it's actually hiding in plain sight, because first of all, the inflation is all the money printing, right? That's the definition. The consequence of inflation is that prices go up. But look, stock prices went way up. Real estate prices went back up.
Sure.
Yeah, look, rare art went back up. You know, collectible cars went back up. I mean, asset prices have gone up like crazy. That is inflation. And of course, anybody who lives in America knows that the prices are going up. Look, rents are up about 8% year over year. Look at how much healthcare costs have gone up. Utilities are going up. Look at the price of food. Have you bought a steak recently at a supermarket? I mean, prices are going up. It's just that the government is not doing an accurate job of reporting, and that is by design.
So they're messing with the numbers. Oh, I agree. Of course. I've been going to the same steakhouse for like 15 years, and 15 years ago, the steak was $25. I thought that was too much. The same steak I want is $100, and I won't get it just because it costs $100. A good ribeye, now at the store, it's like $25. At a steakhouse, it's $100. I mean, that same ribeye at the grocery store was like $8 5 years ago. So you're right, there's huge inflations.
Yeah, I mean, try to barbecue for your family. How many people can still afford to put steaks on that barbecue? I mean, a lot of people can barely afford.
We have hamburgers. I mean, you know, I got a little bit of money just to run the operation, but still, I'm not going to buy steak at that price.
Yeah, I mean, look, the standard of living is going down. I mean, Americans are working 2 or 3 jobs apiece, and they can barely make ends meet. You know, this economy is a disaster, and everyone wants to pretend that it's great because no one wants to admit that Obama is a complete failure, that the Federal Reserve is a complete failure, that everything the government has done has failed.
So what happens next? You've accurately told us, I'd say about 95% accuracy, what's going to happen. What happens next, Peter Schiff?
Well, it depends on what your time frame is. But, you know, I do think that we are either back in recession or so close to one that we will be in one shortly. And I think it's more likely that we're already there. But the question is, will the Fed reverse course and cut rates before or after the election? That's a little bit of a wild card. I think if there wasn't an election, they would just go ahead and do it. But I think, you know, the Fed wants to artificially stimulate the economy to help Hillary Clinton win. But they don't want to have to admit that the economy needs stimulus because that would undercut her message of trying to continue the successful policies of Obama. Because if we're back in recession while he's still president, that proves that his policies were a failure. So the Fed is caught in a difficult position, and I'm not exactly sure, you know, which poison they're going to choose, but they have to decide. But to just keep pretending that everything is great and then maybe even raising interest rates, that is probably going to help Donald Trump
win. What would you do? Sure. What would you do then?
What would I do? I mean, we wouldn't be in this predicament if I was there. But if you put me in today, you know, I'd be like one of the CEOs. You know, you get when you come in, you know, you want a clean house, right? You want to get all the bad news out. You want to throw everything out, including the kitchen sink, get it all out of the way. You know, sometimes they just want to blame the predecessor. But in this case, it would be the fault of my predecessors. If I was the head of the Federal Reserve.
No, I understand. So if you were the head of the Fed or the head of the Treasury or co-head of both, what would you do? Boom.
Yeah. Well, I would admit that everything that was done by my predecessors, going back, not Volcker, but Greenspan and Bernanke and Young, that they everything they did was wrong, right? I said, look, we got to raise interest rates, and I'm trying to let the market set interest rates, but I tell the markets the Fed is not going to be in there. We're not going to be intervening.
Which starts encouraging investment again, not just free money.
But we're not going to keep interest rates down. We're going to let the market push them however high they have to go, and I think they'd go pretty high. And I tell the Congress, we're not buying any of your paper. So you better balance this budget right now, or interest rates are going sky high. And if you can't handle the interest rates, then you better go.
So you'd encourage a real market again.
Oh, yeah, I would tell the government there's no more easy way out. You level with the voters. Either you cut government spending. If you want to raise taxes, you can try that, but I don't think that'll work. So you cut government spending, you negotiate with your creditors, but the gravy train is over. There's no more debt monetization. You're going to have to deal with the consequences of your profligacy. And I'm not, as a Fed chairman, I'm not going to enable it anymore. I would be an independent central bank, which is exactly what we need.
All right, Peter Schiff is our guest. I said we have one run by foreign interest and the government and all these other crazies that keep wanting to kick the can down the road, which only makes the implosion that much bigger. Well, look, I'll tell you something right now, and folks know I just go with my gut. I've never been more concerned about what's happening politically. And just the hatred the elite have for the people and their arrogance. But then the general public has a lot of hardworking people of every race, color, and creed and religion, but there's also all these entitled social justice warriors and lazy people everywhere. If we have a depression, I don't know where this is going to go. And then I look at the triggers. There's so many triggers. What keeps you up at night, Peter Schiff of Euro-Pacific Capital, Europac.com? What keeps you up at night? The next trigger, the public's response, 51% of people under 30 in polls want Bernie. I mean, it's all just, it really, let's admit it. I mean, the West is declining. We had it so good with the free market. We got spoiled and fat. And our kids got even more spoiled and fat. I mean, is that an accurate statement, or you disagree? I'm horrified.
It's been a long time since we've had a free market. Most people alive today don't even remember one. But, we have the remnants of the free market. We've been surviving on that, but it gets less and less free. But, I don't know what keeps me up at night. I have a 4-week-old baby daughter now, but she doesn't actually keep me up that much. But
congratulations.
Thank you. But, none of this stuff, I sleep soundly in that respect. I mean, I know it's bad, and I know it's going to get a lot worse. But I'm hopeful that at the end of the day, the American people can do the right thing when push comes to shove. And you see all these polls and people, how popular socialism is. How many Americans believe in socialism? And of course, this is a real indoctrination of the government school system, which has so poorly educated our kids for a tremendous amount of money. But I think if Americans were explained in the right way, the real difference between freedom and socialism, and why what we've had is closer to socialism than freedom, and how the solution really lies in individual liberty and the free market. And there's nothing the government can do, because it'll be obvious when this thing falls apart. It'll have to be obvious to everybody, even the left, that the government is responsible, because we have so many government programs and so many people from the government who have made all kinds of empty promises that are going to turn out to be completely false. So hopefully the American public can get back to our roots, because if we can embrace those free market principles, there's no limit to what we can accomplish.
That's what produced all the choices. It's a no-brainer, and you're right. For probably 70 years, we haven't had much of a free market. We never had a total free market, but as we get more and more towards command and control, we see the prosperity dissipate. So you're right. The answer is expose the fact that this system is crony capitalism at the top, socialism at the bottom. I mean, look at Venezuela right now, a total hellhole.
Look, they are feeling the burn big time over there in Venezuela. And I know the people that, they talk about democratic socialism, and you bring up Venezuela like they say, well, we didn't mean that kind. We mean like the Swedish kind. Look, the reason that Sweden is still wealthy is because before Sweden adopted those socialist type programs, they were a very wealthy economy. They didn't have these programs until they were rich. And then because they implemented these programs, they're less rich. And now they're trying to dial it back. But, these countries that really have had it where, you got free health care in Venezuela, you got free education, free college, just like Bernie Sanders wants. Everything is free, except there's nothing available, right? You can get anything you want for free, except you can't get anything.
Right. Doctors are free, but you can't get in to see one to get aspirin. And you're right. Sweden, under free market, built an incredible infrastructure. And now, like dumb heathens, people are living in the infrastructure built by the last generations, even though that's starting to crumble now.
Yeah, well, and the Swedes already recognize the mistakes of the welfare state and how it has corrupted younger Swedes and how they live in these social safety nets. And so there is a big movement to try to move in the other direction. But you can't be socialist unless you first become rich through capitalism. Then you can squander your wealth. But the countries that are poor have gone from one dictator to another, and they've never had freedom.
Rich countries slit their wrists with the socialist razor blade later. Peter Schiff, you're absolutely right, but you've got to be capitalist and be able to put on the dog and pony show of socialism. Europac.com. Have a great weekend. Thank you so much, sir, for your insight.
We talked about gold. Shift gold. Get your gold.
Absolutely, absolutely. People should do that. We'll be back with the fourth hour, Infowars.com/show. And 50% off right now when you sign up for the newsletter on the T-shirts. I'll be honest with you, this is an epic battle.